Gentlemen.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's okay. Got it. Yeah, fantastic. Lovely to see you back. I hope you're all fit and well. And you've got some very interesting vehicles. I'm really a very small boy, so the Dennis fire engine excites me very much.
There we go. Yeah.
What's the story with that?
Well, I mean, that was owned by a firefighter, current serving firefighter called James, but before that, it was owned by James and his father. Now his father had passed away, unfortunately, but that fire engine was his father's fire engine. You know as he rode on in the 1970s. You know, when it was new, so it had a strong connection to the family.
Yeah,
and so James and some of the other firefighters had sort of like taken this on as a project, and were hoping.
Well, it was a Car SOS Fuzz. Do you remember? They got it to Car SOS's dad. They were fans of the show, and the plan was to sort of like Car SOS's dad who had cancer, and the plan was to get this vehicle back on the road, but they couldn't afford it and couldn't manage it. So sadly, his father passed away, and it was out of sight, out of mind with James. He decided that this isn't something which is going to be possible. It was very emotional. He lost his father, and he couldn't bear the idea of working on the restoration without his dad being there, showing him how to do it. So it was something that was put on a back burner, and we stepped in and did it with the help of the other firefighters there. James is a lovely guy. It was a very emotional reveal, and he was very tearful. Lovely, and we did it for the emergency services as a thank you. It was that sort of thing.
It's a great one because those guys are going to be able to take it out to shows, and but also use it as a bit of a tool, because they'll be able to hand out fire safety leaflets and all that kind of thing. So actually, it's one of those restos that we've done that will have sort of more uses than just being a lovely old vehicle. It can draw people in and help those guys sort of save a few lives, preempt sort of fire safety issues, rather than them having to be called out to them, because that's what they want. They don't want to be called out.
We learned a lot in that episode. Fuzz and I went off. And we drove a new. Was it an Iveco, Fuzz? What was it?
It was an Iveco, yeah.
Yeah.
Iveco. You say Iveco.
Yeah. But we learned a lot. It was a great thing to do. It was a big project to take on with lots of components and just lots of physical work. But actually, we went off on a bit of a sort of fire training day, went into a burning building, had all the breathing apparatus on. And it was a real wake-up call to what these guys, when you need the emergency services, boy, do you need them. And you don't even think about them when you don't need them.
Dreadful situations.
Yeah. And this fire engine has played such an important part. So Fuzz and I had a bit of a penny drop moment when we were driving in a new one, and then we went back to our ones to look at it. They keep the interiors of them so simple, because the last thing you want to do is distract a firefighter on their way to something that they've really got to focus on. So they keep the driving experience as sort of muted as possible. So you're not thinking, what does that sign mean? And like when you look at these cars, RND, all the buttons and things have signs. In a fire engine, there are no signs. It's all just written in English. Stop, go, first gear, second gear. The whole cockpit is designed around keeping the thought to a minimum, so you can focus on the building you're about to run into that's on fire. And there's so many. You see vehicles in a different way when you're lucky enough to have the experiences we've had working on now 100 of them.
That's right. Who would have thought that Dennis fitted those fire engines with Jaguar XK engines?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, yeah,
a DB5 gearbox.
Yeah, that's right. So that's exactly what they're. That's why there are so few survivors. The pumps in the back are made with very high quality sort of phosphor bronze and that kind of thing. The gearboxes are worth a fortune, and the engines are useful. So so the rest of the fire engine is just like a ladder chassis with a bit of plywood on the top, and so that's why the survival rates are pretty low, because they're full of lots of valuable stuff.
So did that make it quite difficult to do then?
Things like the braking system was a bit more tricky, because it features the hydrovac units. It's a vacuum brake system, and so they've got leather seals in them, and so the seals had to be nursed back into operation, because getting new ones made was difficult. So they had to be soaked in in baby oil and stuff like that, just to try and get them to be supple enough to actually get back into use. So things like that were difficult. Parts, of course, are not easy to come by. So parts have to be remade or restored themselves, and rather than it's my little boy playing with his monster truck over the top there. So things have to, it's a more involved job. There's more actual restoration. There's less parts buying and parts replacement, and a lot more renovation.
Yeah. And the other vehicle I noticed, because again, you've gone for some quite unusual things. People wouldn't immediately think of a Fiat Uno Turbo as being a classic car, but actually it's quite an old car. And I think there's virtually, there's like a handful left, isn't there?
Yeah, well, that's right. That's those cars. Yeah, those cars are late 80s.
Fix it again, Tony.
Yeah, rock box extraordinaires. And their survival rate is very low because it's from that era where before Fiat really protected their vehicles. So I mean that thing.
And they were hammered. Small engine turbo vehicles. They were never intended to be on the road 40 years later, were they, or 30 years later, so that wasn't part of Fiat's plan.
Everything about them is keeping the overall engine capacity down so that it met certain road use regulations or what have you, or could be used. No, actually, no, that's wrong. Actually, no, they increased the cubic capacity, didn't they, to 1301, so they could be used on certain roads and stuff. So of course, then they started getting hammered, so you could use them everywhere. And little cars, turbochargers, and being built for young people to have fun in. That's a recipe for
very much my era. Those were the cars that I made the mistake of racing and lost racing against.
You just have the wrong car. Every car you raced against, you lost.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'd rather be in your bus.
Vauxhall Astra GT8. Listen, I'm not racing anybody in the bus. I'm just motoring along there, being ultra cool.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Low bridges, bang, off of the top.
Well, that's all part of it, isn't it? I mean, when do you have to think about that when you're driving? I think about
exactly. That's so cool. That's so cool.
It's very cool. It adds a different dimension. It's a fourth dimension to driving.
But was the Fiat Turbo a difficult one as well, because there's probably not that many parts about?
Yes, it was. And the thing that we did was we messed about with the ECU, and we shouldn't have done that, because we thought, right, okay, 25 years old, ECUs start to break down. So we were thinking, right, okay, let's preempt that. So let's not give ourselves a problem. Let's fit a different ECU. So we did, which gave us loads of problems. And so really what we should have done was use the infrastructure that we had there. But that's a lesson that I've learned, really.
I was terrified of 80s and 90s turbo cars. Put him off forever.
Literally, I have sleepless nights when we're doing those cars, because it's like, will it work tomorrow?
But I still persuaded him to turbo a Corrado, the 2-litre 16 valve.
And that was
a
mistake, because as soon as you try and fit something into that space, then something else has to be modified. Then something else has to be modified, which affects this. Blah 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 blah.
It's a mistake for the mechanic, but not for the driver. For the driver, it's all about the thrills.
That I get. But for the guys on the ground, not great.
No, that's right. Now, you've mentioned electricity and chips and things, and I did notice, and I know that you may not be able to talk about this in a lot of detail, but you've let me down, chaps, because you've electrified a classic car.
Well, hold on. Actually,
hang on.
Actually,
put me right.
Tim said just yesterday, Tim said a very important thing to me, and that was that we shouldn't be looking at electric cars replacing, or electric propulsion replacing internal combustion engines. These are in addition to. So, the age of the internal combustion engine is not over yet, because people are going to be doing clever things with those things over the next few years. I'm absolutely positive. but electric cars, this is an additional form of power. And let's face it, going back to buses, we had trolley buses until the 1970s. So, electric power, I think, is a good thing. I think it's a lot of fun. And
it's just different. I sent Fuzz out yesterday on that. And that there is my electric scooter. It's a 2-wheel drive thing, does just under 40 miles an hour. It was on private road. Fuzz came back with the biggest smile on his face ever. We had a chat about it. Yeah, and
it's a great thing. I absolutely love it. And I really like experimenting with different sort of propulsion systems. And so this has been an eye.
They are boring though, dude. I mean, they're boring. Like we've done the conversion now. The actual conversion process. The thing about an engine, I was talking to my missus about this morning. These are the kind of conversations we have when you're thinking about low bridges in your bus. No, but we were talking about the fact that, the motor in an electric vehicle, people are taking them out of Teslas and stuff. They don't actually know the inner workings of how the motors work. You take the skin off what looks like a great big bean can, and you're hit with a wall of technology and integrated chips and this, that, and capacitors and resistors. And you just think, I've no idea what any of that lot does. So actually, that one piece of engineering there replaces so much interesting stuff under the bonnet, so much stuff that I've watched you explain to viewers how things work. And all of a sudden they have been replaced with something which is really boring. And that's my problem with electric vehicles.
It is a bit boring, yeah, because there aren't very many moving parts, I suppose.
No.
There is that. But, there's room for everything. There's just more things that we can do now. And that's better.
Yeah. But they're quick though, dude. They're so quick. I mean, like, you can slag electric vehicles off, but then you can get in a quick one. You can go, all right, this thing's actually made me feel sick, and I'm the driver. That never happens. It's like a roller coaster, The speed sometimes gets the better of you.
But also, can I say that some cars would be absolutely, I think, improved by fitting an electric motor. Things like BMW Isetta, bubble cars, or sort of Heinkel or Trojan bubble cars. Rather than having that washing machine with a brick on spin cycle kind of single pot engine rattling away there, you could have something that actually is fit for purpose going around cities, smooth. It would be better planted on the road with it being slightly heavier down, with batteries down low. I reckon those would be better vehicles. And dare I say, even Fiat 500s, old Fiat 500s would be better.
Well, you should take a look at a new piece. You should take a look at a new piece of technology. It's just come out called the Sinclair C5.
Oh yeah, I've had one of those as well.
Do you remember those?
Thing.
Oh my god!
People tried to kill me in that, literally.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah. That was their opportunity. They missed it.
Have you got, James? Sorry to.
It's 100 shows. You must be very pleased with yourselves. What do you want watchers to actually take away from this series?
Well, I think we've, I've increased my knowledge of sort of 80s and 90s cars this series, and sort of have learned different approaches to restoration. So, that's been good. And of course, with changing a car over to electric propulsion, again, that's another new one for me. And I think more and more things are actually doable. I've really enjoyed that. So, series 10 and 100 cars. Yeah, I'm still on
what I want them to take away is I want themselves to take themselves away, empty their garage and go and buy themselves a cheap classic car and go and get some spanners and tools and actually get stuck into a hobby and a project car that's an antidepressant. I see classic cars as antidepressants that will teach you skills that young kids of these days don't particularly care about since the invention of modern technology and integrated chips, this, that, and the other. Nobody tries opening things up and having a look inside anymore. And I think classic cars, it's so rewarding.
Fun for all the family.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
That's brilliant.
Literally.
Brilliant answers. Thank you very much indeed for your time. And good luck with everything.
Yeah, great to see you again.
Thank you very much. Cheers.